back to the Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast. My name is Tariq, a 19-year-old university student currently experiencing a midlife crisis in my late teens. The reason why, because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And with a COVID first year at university, I decided to start a podcast to get to know more people and speak to people from an array of different backgrounds. And hopefully by learning a bit about them, I can learn a bit more about myself too. Ladies and gentlemen, today on the podcast, we have got, I think, the most ordinary man you could ever meet. He's been doing YouTube for quite a long time. He's also done, well, I mean, we'll get into some of the amazing stories from meeting the likes of Liam and Noel Gallagher, playing at Wembley in the first ever public game. Just some amazing stories. Driving around near a hurricane. So some of them are a bit stupid, no offense to you, Robbie, but some of them are just absolutely incredible. And we get into them today. Maybe you'll know who I'm talking about. Well, you probably will know who I'm talking about based on the thumbnail. I don't know why I try and pretend that you don't know who I'm talking about, because they're literally in the thumbnail. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, but I usually wait until the end to introduce. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point is, my guest today is someone that I've watched for I'd say probably about 1 or 2 years now. A big fan of everything that he makes, pretty much watch everything that he makes. And he's one of the sort of inspirations to this podcast. Obviously it's a small podcast, so I've only really been able to get I've had the pleasure of getting some amazing people on. But a lot of the people that I've had on are just sort of normal people like John Steed, for example. Just normal people, but have some incredible stories. And Robbie is, for me, the definition of that. He has some incredible stories to tell. So I wanted to get him on. I wanted to know how you can create such incredible stories, like I talk about in the intro. That is the purpose of this podcast. I think that's what sort of life is about creating stories. And we'll get to hear more about sort of Robbie's perspective on that, on university, on some of the amazing stories he's had, and just anything and everything else. So without further ado, Robbie Knox.
And where are you?
I am in student accommodation still. So today's my last day, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm at university. So today's my last day of first year, which is has been pretty rubbish, to be honest, because of COVID. I'm not going to lie.
I know, what dreadful timing to go to uni.
What
uni
actually,
at?
What's that, sorry?
What university is it?
University of Reading.
Oh, cool. I've been to Reading a few times.
Have you?
Work there, yeah.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
Oh, yeah, I quite like it. There's a music pub that's good that I like going to. I can't remember what it's called now. Purple Turtle. Is that a place? No. I made that up. All right. I'm going to find out.
We've barely had the chance to go to things like pubs anyway, so it's been a bit of a dead first year, I can tell you that. It's a nice area though. I do like Reading. It's just first year university not being what everyone thought it was, but it did end up leading to me making this podcast. So I guess
there you go. Purple Turtle. It is Purple Turtle.
I feel like I have heard of it. Purple Turtle. I don't know where that is though.
It's in the centre somewhere. That's all I know.
I don't know.
It's not important. It's not important.
I mean, whatever you say. I mean, whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. If you want to talk about Purple Turtle, we can talk about Purple Turtle.
I'm all right. I've not got. That's about all my knowledge of Purple Turtle.
How would you rate it compared to the Murderers?
Much below.
Oh,
okay. The Murderers. Yeah, Murderers up there. Yeah.
Nowhere near. Is there anything that comes close to the Murderers?
Merlin's bar in Whistler in Canada. I love. It's in a ski resort.
Okay.
That's probably better than the Murderers in my book. But
it's better than the Murderers.
It's on the side of a ski resort, so it's it's got better views than the Murderers.
I feel like that could be potential a nice title right there.
Well, yeah, go for it. Yeah,
why not? I mean, to be fair, I don't know nothing about YouTube. I just sort of did this podcast because I was bored and I wanted to meet some people. Well, actually, originally it was just to sort of have a chat about, or just rant about the government and life and how everything was shit. And then I decided to get people on and stuff like that. And yeah, it's now I've got Robbie Knox on, which is absolutely mental. I can't believe it. We finally ended up getting through. I ran it straight from work. I was like, when I saw your email, it was right at the end of my shift, and I was like, shit. And so I ran it as quick as I could, quickly hopped in the shower, came out, got everything sorted. So
do you know what? It's completely my fault because I thought I'd reply because I'd put it in my diary, and But then I wanted to say just to check everything's still all right. I thought I'd literally not replied to this. I've been all over the place. I've been all over the place.
Right.
So yeah,
It's all right. Don't worry about that. Anyway, yeah. So I want to start off with just some quick questions, just to sort of start the podcast, I guess. The first one is a bit of a random one. What's the last thing on your camera roll, Robbie?
Oh, great question. Let me have a look. It is a picture of an email from my friend. That's not actually from my friend because I think his email's been hacked or something.
Oh,
and I
okay.
sent him a picture saying, "I think your email's been hacked, mate."
Is it from a Somalian prince?
It's not. It's just his name's Stu Fay, and all it says is Robbie, and then there's a link that I've not clicked on,
Okay,
and then
good.
Stu Fay in enormous letters.
I don't know what that's meant to mean, but okay.
I don't know what is that, but I admire the choice of font.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not from a Somalian prince because those princes are meant to be quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, I mean, busy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Next question is, who would you consider as a sort of role model in your life? If you could only pick one, who would it be?
What is it? Someone that I know, or someone that I?
Anything you want.
Anyone. A role model. Who's a good role model? Have I got any role models? That's terrible. I should have. Hang on, I've got to come up with a better answer than that. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Talk about one. This is the issue. It's a one-person podcast. So who am I going to?
Yeah, I don't know. Just freestyle. Hard, really. I don't think there's one person. There's different people that I sort of respect different things about and pick up things from. But I don't think I've really got a role model. No.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I'm going to replace that question then. No, it's all right because I asked you a question on one of your streams. Obviously, I know you stream Football Manager, and I try and tune in as much as possible. And I think you missed it because you were getting quite a few at the time. And it's because what you've got in your background, it's still there actually, where it says Martin equals flop, FIFA 20, and then happy birthday. Could you give us what's Martin equals flop?
So on our Football Manager stream, we bought a player whose surname is Martin, and we paid a lot of money for him. I thought he was going to be good. And FIFA 20 Free Packs, who's one of the viewers of my Twitch stream, he said he was going to be a flop. So we wrote that on the board. And in the first game, Martin scored like 6 goals or something. So it was just to remind us that on that date, the 4th of May, he said that. So if he goes on to become the world's greatest player, we can mock him. If he becomes a disaster, we can not mock him. He's been decent so far.
Okay, all right, okay, fair enough. I thought it was a reference to maybe the guinea pig from a Happy Hour podcast. I thought, why would you call the guinea pig?
Oh, sadly not. No.
Yeah, no, that's what I was confused about. But okay, fair enough.
It's probably quite floppy because it's a lot of weight.
Well, exactly, because it's front to back, isn't it? It's just mental.
Exactly. Yeah.
I still can't believe that Max Fosh ended up taking it to the actual assembly where I wonder. I don't know if anyone asked him anything about it, but it was annoying because they didn't zoom in. Like I thought they'd.
He's on BBC interviews with it.
Oh, has he? Oh, I've not seen that.
He was doing interviews, and he's doing an interview with the Martin scarf. I can literally see my desktop the next to your head. I can see the artwork when I designed the Martin scarf. So brilliant. Yes,
is that your biggest
yeah, no, it's yes, easily.
I mean, fair enough. You've got a few achievements, and hopefully we'll get into that later on. So I mean, to say that the Martin scarf, a scarf of just guinea pigs front to back on a scarf in a BBC interview, that is pretty mental. My final quick fire question to you is: if there was a house fire and everyone made it out alive, any pets made it out alive, but you could only save one thing, and you've got your phone and your laptop. Your phone and your laptop are safe. What would be the other thing?
Okay, is my work hard drive included in the
laptop? Yeah.
What's safe?
Yeah,
that comes with the laptop. Okay, good, because that's cut off. That'd be a hassle to have to give it. Although having said that, I do have a pretty good offsite backup system. So I had to say one thing. I don't know, probably something, photos or
Yeah.
something. There's a box of photos up in the loft. I'll just go and grab that sort of thing, even though they're sat in the loft. But there's things that aren't digitized that I'd probably quite like of my youth and so that. Probably just photos. No, possession wise, I mean, I've got insurance. Nothing's that important. So yeah, just photos.
Yeah, a lot of people do give the answer of photos, and I'm thinking of taking that one out of the equation just to make it a bit, because everyone was saying laptop first, and I thought, all right, I'm going to allow you to say
Yeah.
your laptop. That's already a guarantee. So I might actually include photos as well, just because everyone says.
Okay,
photos.
take photos out. That's fine. Okay. One thing I can keep then. I've got a football shirt that I need to get framed at some point, but I haven't been asked. A football shirt of when I played the first ever public game at Wembley Stadium. So I'll take that.
Whoa, you played at the first ever public game?
So when you open up a stadium, not the original one, the new Wembley Stadium,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
I'm not that old. But when you open up a stadium, it turns out you can't just open up a stadium and have the FA Cup final in it. It's not allowed. You have to have ramp up events to test it at different capacities.
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time they opened Wembley Stadium to the public. They had 20,000 tickets they gave away to people in the local community. We had a soccer AM team where I used to work, and a couple of other teams. We played a 3-way tournament and we won. So I am the first goalkeeper to win a trophy at the new Wembley Stadium.
Wow, that is. See,
Yes.
this is what I mean.
Yes.
I honestly admire you, Robbie, so much, because you've got so many of these amazing stories, and that's what I want from like my life. More than anything, more than a load of money, more than whatever, I want a load of stories to be able to tell. And I feel like
I think that's the meaning of life.
What's that? Sorry?
I think the meaning of life is having stories, and if you can sit in a pub and you're having a conversation, you've got some good stories. I think that's the purpose, and it's easy to get stories. I mean, you won't necessarily play football at Wembley. That was just like because of my job, sort of thing. But if you do stuff, you get loads of stories. Like I went on a trip with friends in 2005. Went on a road trip. Me and 2 other friends went from Boston to New Orleans. And we have so many stories from that 3 weeks, just because you're just doing something. So
Yeah.
if you just do things, you get stories.
What's the best thing that you did over there, from Boston to New Orleans?
What's the best thing? Best thing to do. Best story-wise, we went into a hurricane because we didn't really like. I know hurricanes are bad, and you shouldn't go in hurricanes, right? But we knew there was a hurricane coming, but we were driving in between places, and we looked at it. And we were like, okay, the hurricane's there. There's like the edge of the hurricane. We would drive right through the edge of the hurricane. So it's 100 miles from the middle of the hurricane. We're going to go through the edge. But what I didn't realize is the edge of the hurricane is still a hurricane. Right? So it's pretty bad. And I don't think there's much difference between being fairly close to the middle of the hurricane and being 100 miles from the hurricane. It's still a hurricane. And it was me, my friend Speedo, my friend Sally, and we were driving through, and Sal was in the back, and it quickly got bad. Like it was more, you could see it was more than just wind.
Right.
And like, the point where Sally started crying was when in a film where electric wires blow down and hit puddles and sparks fly up, that happened like 100 meters in front of our car. And we're like, yeah, this is getting pretty bad. And we're driving on, but all the hotels were full of emergency services that had come from out of state to prepare for clear up after the hurricane. Like, so we couldn't get in hotels. So we're driving along. It was getting really bad. And at one point we went to like Wilmington or something like that. We said, we're going, yeah. We listened, no, sorry, we won't go through the place. We listened to the radio, and they said on the radio, they were going, yeah, if you're driving along now, they said, if you're in Wilmington, get under cover because it's pretty, it's getting really serious. If you haven't got anywhere to go, you can get into the sports center there is open for everyone like that. And we're going, well, at least it's not that bad. At least we're not there. And then like a mile down the road, it went, you're entering Wilmington. We're like, for God's sake. So we kept going. And eventually we found this hotel, and it looked a bit murdery. This like little dry, like, what do you call it? Motel type thing. So we went there, and we had, I went to reception. So you've got a room. She goes, we've got one room. It's a smoking room. You might want to have a look at it. So me and Sal, Speedo stayed in the car. Me and Sally went in. Sally, bear in mind, she'd been crying in the back seat. I was thinking we're going to die. We went into this hotel, and this room was so horrific. We just looked at it, and we just looked back at each other, and she just went, we're going back into the hurricane, aren't we? I went, yeah. So we went back in the car, went back into the hurricane. And eventually we found a Holiday Inn that we went into again. Don't get how much it costs. And we just sat in the pool. We had a glass like ceiling above the pool. We just sat in the pool watching the hurricane and woke up in the morning. It got away.
What were you doing going near the? Why didn't you just stay where you were?
We didn't think
It was going to be that bad.
the edge of the hurricane would be that bad. Like if there's something bad going on, then the edge of it probably isn't that bad. Was our theory. Like we're like we're like the middle of the hurricane. I'm not going to drive through the middle of the hurricane, but that's 100 miles away, and we're right on the edge. If you got the little blue bit on the weather thing that comes out, we're like just in that little bit at the edge of it. Still a hurricane though, turns out. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend driving through a hurricane.
A life tip: don't drive through or 100 miles near a hurricane.
Yeah. Anywhere that says hurricane, avoid.
Just don't drive. I mean, I feel like you should have probably known that when they were getting in all the emergency services and probably gone, you know what? It's probably not a smart idea to drive.
Yeah, but we didn't know that until we tried to get into hotels.
Oh, okay.
And we thought we were kind of going to be all right. Can you see the logic though? That like
I'll be honest,
the edge. No, okay. Yeah, no, fair enough. But we were thinking, if we're not in the middle, the edge of it will be like the hurricane, but not as bad. It'll be a bit windy, we thought. But no, it's just a bit windy. Turns out. Yeah.
You're saying it as if it was like, it'll be a bit windy. Like,
we didn't think fire would be coming off the road in front of us.
Yeah.
That was electricity fire. Yeah. So
No.
Live and learn.
I mean, I guess, and I guess your whole life has been sort of about living and learning.
Yeah, but the whole thing, the other thing is, sorry, one more thing. The other thing on that trip, to give an example, we were just staying a lot of the time. We didn't tend to book anywhere to stay in advance generally. We just sort of go and end up somewhere. And like things like we were driving past Philadelphia, just stopped at a service station at 9 a.m. We saw a newspaper. It said at the front page, Live 8 here today at Philadelphia, no ticket required. So we're going, might as well get a Live 8 if we're driving past. So things like that kept happening. But one night we were on a Saturday night and we were in this, we stopped off. It's basically like a sort of service station, but it wasn't like a service station here. There were like loads of different hotels around. So like 6 different, so it was off the interstate. There were loads of different hotels, like five different hotels, I think. And we were staying in one, and Sal was a bit tired. So she went to bed. And me and Speedo went, well, we're going to try and find somewhere to have a drink. So we went down to our hotel bar, and it was really depressing. Like one lone bloke at the bar just drinking whiskey in this brightly lit hotel bar. So like, oh no. So then let's try the others. So we walked around the others and see if any of them were any good. And they didn't seem very good. But there's one, it looked like there was a wedding reception going on in it. So it's like this sort of nightclub bar thing. It's called the Diamond Nightclub in the place called Aberdeen. And we went in and we thought, I'm not sure if we're allowed to be in here because I didn't know if it was a wedding reception. It turned out it was just a bar that had a wedding going on in the same place. So so not the wedding, the reception comes. So they're having a party. They're just coming onto this place, but everyone else could go in. So we went in. So I went and got some drinks from the bar. And we had a drink. We still weren't sure if we were supposed to be there. So then friend Jim went out my round. I go to the bar. So he went over. As you know, no, he went first. He went first to the bar. Got some drinks, came back, and I said, were they all right with us being here? He went, yeah, no, fine. I said, were the drinks expensive? He went, no, actually, he goes, I went to the guy who served me, recognised my accent, because we weren't in a touristy area, we're just in sort of general America. He said, I recognise my accent, and he loves rugby. So he said, we can have these for free. I was going, that's really nice. So I went back for the next drink. I think again, we still weren't sure we were supposed to be there, so we still think we might get kicked out at any point. So I went up to get some drinks, and someone else, a woman, served me, and I said, "I could have 2 beers, please." And she went, "Yeah, that'd be $7 or whatever, $8." And this guy went, "Wow, no!" And the bar was like in the middle of the place, so it was a circular bar or something like that. And this guy goes, "Hey guys, gather around!" And got like all the bar stuff worked there. He goes, "You see these 2 guys here?" And this is like a packed sort of nightclub bar type thing. Like, goes, "See these 2 guys? They're from the UK. I love the UK. I love rugby." Because these 2 guys, they drink free now. Okay, you got that? They drink free. We're like, what is going on? And it was like some kind of bar in like an American like frat house film or something like that. There was at one point they had like they just rang this bell, goes, "Shoot us," and everyone at the bar goes, "Yeah." Went over and they were like, they'd lined up like 150 shots of the drink, and everyone in the bar just went and had a shot and carried on. We're like, this is weird. This is mental. Brilliant. Another point, they like rang a bell again, like, Super Soaker fight, and they're pulling out these water pistols. They're like some girls in wet t-shirts. It was like a sort of film
Yeah,
from
like an
like
American film. Yeah,
American 90s high school bar films or university bar film thing. It was like that. It was basically at the end of the night, they're going, hey, everyone get out, you guys stay, get some t-shirts, come back tomorrow, we're gonna have a barbecue. We have barbecue, come here, you guys eat, drink for free all day. We're going, yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. Woke up in the morning, went, I'm not spending another day at a service station. It was lovely, but we should go. We should definitely go. So yeah, so but just things like that just happen all the time when you just do stuff. And,
I know, but it's so crazy because I don't know what it is, and I feel like a lot of people who watch you, and the same with Blue Van Man as well. Like, there's this sort of like for so long on YouTube and other like sort of platforms, you had these like influencers coming on, like people who wanted just to be famous, I guess. And they were, exciting and fun or whatever, or they took different routes, like as in they were social commentators or whatever you want to call them. And then now I think you've got this proper. I don't know if you've heard of that Rate My Takeaway guy.
I've heard of it. I've not seen any stuff. Yeah, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got like nearly 300,000 subscribers now. And he just goes around rating takeaways. Quite obviously, I mean, you can tell by the name. He just goes around rating takeaways, and so there's like you, Blue Dave, and the Rate Man Takeaway. I don't even know what his name is, to be honest. And
is he British?
Yeah, he's British. Yeah, he just goes around like all over the UK. Just you go all the way to like Wales just to have a takeaway. It's amazing, and he's just got such a strong accent, and it's like it's so genuine compared to so many years of almost like fake YouTube, right? Because you've got these three, like all three of you. I'll use you three as an example of just genuine people who've got genuine stories to tell. And I think there's a huge appeal to that because I think Dave in one of his videos said, I don't know why people watch me. And I replied back, I said, the reason why people watch you is because you've got this sort of genuine, you're a genuine person, and young people like me want to watch that because it's different and it's not the same old, social commentating or trying to get famous or clickbait titles. It's just, here's me, like it or go do one. And it's amazing.
I mean, my take on it is that my thinking, I don't know how accurate it is, but I grew up without the internet. When I went to university, they gave us access to the internet. There's a computer room you could go to and you could get an email address, you could use the internet. And it was 95 I went there. So it was really the early days of the internet. But in my head, I just sort of thought, oh, you get given the internet when you go to uni. I didn't know it was like, I knew roughly about it, but it was like that. So I didn't really have the societal pressures of social media that I think people have growing up now, or Instagram and all this. So I think there's a pressure, whether real or imagined, for people to make their life seem better than it is. So, but the reality is everyone has to put the bins out, unless you've got a butler who does it for you or something like that. Everyone has to go to Sainsbury's or somewhere or whatever to buy things. Everyone has to do the same sort of mundane stuff a lot of the time. And so I think I've been quite conscious to try and, I think if anything, I make my life less interesting than it's going to do some quite interesting things like that.
Make good
happy hour and things like that. So But whereas I think a lot of the time, I think just being honest and go, this is like, I do genuinely, I'm not going, oh my God, I can't believe it's bin day. That's amazing. But I genuinely, it's quite nice when you get out in the morning and it's birds singing and it's like early, nice fresh air and all that. It does feel quite nice. Oh, it's nice to be outside this time, sort of thing like that. So you can sort of appreciate those things. But I think there is a pressure for people to Instagram up their lives to some degree, whether it's putting on a filter or in extreme cases, there's like that place in America where you can hire out the inside of a private jet to take photos and pretend you're a private jet and stuff like that. So there's stuff like that. But so yeah, I think that's probably the sort of appeal to that, I'd say, is that it is real-ish. And I think in many ways I've picked the hardest way to grow on YouTube, in that I will do a video about skiing. So people will go, oh, I like skiing, I'll watch this. And then there's a video of me taking the bin out. So they're going to go, unsubscribe, sort of thing like that. But what I think it does mean is that the people that do get into it have a stronger connection with you than if it was just, I'm watching this because I like beer or skiing or gardening or whatever like that. Because they're getting into you as a person, or you as the type of content you create. So I did like on Wednesday, it was the launch. I've been making a beer with Doc's Beers in Grimsby. I started a brewery, and we had a live event there, and it's a podcast that Lloyd Griffith and I did during lockdown called Cooped Up, and all it was literally us talking about what we'd done during lockdown. In the early days, it's like, oh, I had a delivery today, and that was like the most exciting thing that's happened. You didn't go out of your house for weeks. Remember what it was like in first lockdown? Where it was like properly, everyone was scared to go anywhere, and so we did that. We did like a live version of that at Doc's, and sold like 90 tickets. But the people there some bloke had travelled from Bath on his own. He'd driven for 4 hours to go and see this, have a t-shirt on, and then was doing 4 hours back on his own that night, like that. And I was going, that's mental. He goes, you want to come along, sort of thing. So you get that connection with people who then really buy into what you're doing. And I think it gives you a strong connection when you've got that honesty and that sort of side of things. Yeah, it's like with I was talking to Jack and the other day, who I do Jack Mate, who I do Happy Hour with, and we're always we mentioned before this, we're always talking about the murderers on this, and I was saying to him, it's funny that like, so a lot of people in the public eye spend all their time going like trying to keep things secret, or I don't want anyone to know roughly where I live, or try and keep this there. Literally going like, we're at this pub much every Jack's at the pub pretty much every time there's football on, sort of thing, and we're here all the time. He said he was saying that the other day, someone came up to me and goes, wow, I just came into the murderers on the off chance you'd be here, but I didn't think you'd actually be here. We are quite a lot. So
if you ever want to meet all three of you, you're going to be in the murderers.
I mean, I live in Kent at the minute, so I'm not there as often, but if I'm in Norwich, you can bet I'll be getting the murderers for at least one pint. But Jack and Stevie and Alfie are in there at least once a week, I'd say. Like that. So it's not that hard to find them. So I think if you do want to go talk to them,
it's no longer a big thing. Just meet them. It's like, oh, it's just Jack and Stevie and Alfie at the murderers.
I mean, I find it really funny that they're quite openly just going, we're always in this pub.
I know it's the specific one. It's like most people would go, oh, you know, that bar. There's a specific bar next to us that we go to. It's like, no, we're just going to say the name. We're going to say where we're from, everything. You might as well just give away where you're living right now at this rate.
I mean, So but it's fine. I mean, it's not at the level where it's going to be a problem. Do you know what I mean? No one's that fast. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned sort of a few minutes ago about how you grew up in a time where you didn't have access to the internet. And every sort of podcast that I watch that you're on, they always start off with Soccer AM, right? And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm 19 years old, so I never actually watched Soccer AM, but I only know the sort of stuff that you've spoke about. Like, I know who Tim Lovejoy is, even though I've never watched it. I have no idea who he is. I've only known him because I've heard you talk about him so many times. Everyone starts from there. But I want to start before that, right? I want to talk. So you grew up in the 70s, am I right?
I was born in the 70s, but I was born in 1977, so I don't really remember the 70s. But so 80s, yeah. 80s,
right. Okay, so I want to start from there. What was sort of a young Robbie Knox in the 80s like? And what was it like living in the 80s?
It was different. Like, so I'm at the tail end of Generation X, Gen X, whatever. And I think what they say about that, they're often called latchkey kids, because it was the sort of generation, it was the first real generation where women had worked on the large scale. The mums had worked, sort of things. And before that, it was like the man would go out and work and the woman would stay at home and make the house nice and stuff. There wasn't really, yeah. So there wasn't really the sort of structure that there was. So I would, like, during the summer holidays, not when I was really young, but in the summer holidays, my mum was a teacher, so it was slightly, she had similar sort of holidays, but there were times where she'd be working, I'd be off, and would just get put out of the house at 9 a.m. and like come back after work. Just go roam the streets for a day, sort of thing like that. So there was a lot of that. It was a lot, and people would always go, "Oh, your kids aren't allowed out anymore," sort of thing. But I mean, I don't think it's no more dangerous now. You look at the stats now, sort of thing. We would just go out and do stuff. So there was a lot more sort of outside stuff and a lot more playing and I guess being left to your own devices. I mean, there were sort of well, obviously dangerous things around something, but it was a lot. It was a very. There was a lot more just do what you like, go out and get up to adventures, come back when it gets dark, sort of stuff, and yeah, and occasionally you'd be playing football, and then someone's mum would come and shout at them because they're 2 hours late for dinner and stuff. So a
Yeah,
bit like
yeah.
that, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's so weird that because, like, I mean, you talk about how in the 80s you just be roaming around the streets or whatever, and even me, like, I'm 19 years old. When I was younger, I weren't allowed to roam around the streets, but we were allowed to roam around our garden and like other gardens nearby. So it was like it slowly became less and less. And when I look at my little brother and sisters, and just younger kids now, like you'll never see like kids just roaming around outside. And you spoke about sort of how statistically it is pretty much the same. So what do you think shifted and what happened that basically meant that you went from kids being allowed to just go wherever they want and make sure that they come back before dinner to now you're only allowed to you're barely going outside because you're on your tablet all the time?
I think people are really bad at analyzing the actual truth and what and data and stuff and knowing what the reality is. And I think people get scared because they hear stories about pedophiles or whatever, which obviously do exist, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're looking at kids dying, I think I'm right in saying the biggest thing that kills kids is car journeys, sort of these car crashes, I believe. And so, I mean, I intend. I mean, we'll see what happens. My oldest is my daughter who's 10 now, and I think lived. I mean, I'm on a quite busy road, but I'd be quite happy on a less busy road for her to. And we're talking about moving anyway, so I think when we move house, I think I'd happily let her just go out and wander around to a friend's house or go and play fairly close by. Certainly in a couple of years. I think when she was like 12, I think I'd be completely content with her doing that. And I wonder whether there will be a resurgence now of people who grew up in those times. But then I don't know, because then, yeah, I don't know. I think it's good for kids to have that sort of freedom and go out and do stuff, as long as you sort of give them the sort of toolkit and tell them how to stay safe and be sensible of that. So I don't know why it's gone. I think people just get a bit scared and aren't necessarily looking at the facts. They're looking at a general sort of feeling, which is understandable, but the world is there's less crime now than there was, I believe, in the 80s, sort of thing. So I think it's probably a safer place in theory.
Yeah, I mean, even when myself, like, as in, I always had a strict schedule in terms of what I was doing every single day. So I would go to school, come back, and then I had Islamic studies straight after that, which would last hours. And so I never really had time to go out with my friends after school or go to their house. Like I to this day, I still haven't actually gone to a friend's house before, and I'm 19 years old, which is like crazy for like other people. They're like, "What? You've never gone to a friend's house before?" I'm like, "No, I've never actually gone to a friend's house because I never had the sort of time to do it when I was younger." And like now, it's like, I don't know, it's just a bit weird to go to a friend's house now, I guess. Obviously, because of COVID, you can't. But like at 17, I can't go, "Oh, shall I come for a sleepover?" Like, it's just a bit weird. So yeah. I've never actually done it.
But not like even during the day, you've never been to.
No.
So you've never been to anyone else's house?
I've been to like my cousin's house.
Yeah.
I've been to someone else. I've been to other people's house.
Yeah.
It's not. I've just only ever been.
You've only ever seen one house.
I know what other houses look like, but I've never been to a friend's house or stayed there and watched like a game of football or something like that, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And it's crazy. Even for me, it's crazy because I'm like, how have I never gone to? And I've got close friends as well, and I've never seen the inside of the house.
But do you want to? Do you want to? Or by now, are you like, I'm not sure?
But now it just feels, obviously because of COVID, it's like, I don't even know if you're legally allowed to do it right now. I don't know what the rules are, to be honest.
I think you can, yeah. I think imagine if your house was completely different to everyone else's. Something you thought was normal was completely.
Oh yeah, I know, it would be pretty crazy. Well, I mean, one of the things that it's funny that you say that. So my family is quite like traditional, and one of the things that we have are, I mean, I think people had it back in like, when you were probably younger, they probably had it, is what are they called? Like cabinets, like really big cabinets with like china pieces or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, and you'd only get them out on special occasions.
Yeah.
And apparently that's like not even a thing in English households now. Like, as in no one actually has them.
Yeah. You don't see it much. Used to when I was younger, yeah.
Every house that I've been, like, as in my house and all of my cousins' houses, because we're all traditional, they've all got one. So when I found out that that wasn't a normal thing, I was like, what? So you don't have special cups and teas sets and whatever for like special guests? they're like, no, what are you on about, Tariq? I'm like, whoa, this is mental.
Like we do have nice plates. We've got like some nice plates we'd bring out if someone came round for dinner, potentially. But that's about like matching plates. They're not like that fancy.
We've got like huge cupboard, like a massive cupboard with like a glass window that everyone can see. And it's just there. And I thought it was just completely normal, but apparently it's not.
It certainly used to be. I wouldn't see that and go, whoa, what is this sort of thing? But yeah, you don't see it as much as you used to, I think. That's interesting. But yeah, I think when we go to someone's house, just do it. I think. But I think going about, because we used to spend all the time. I remember we used to go around be around his house all the time. Our friends would like just come and like stay for like a few days. Just my mum would phone up their mum or something, go, Gavin wants to stay for a couple of days or for a bit, and then eventually like a few days ago, yeah, Gavin needs to come home today. We go, okay, Gavin, you got to go home now, sort of thing. And it was like that sort of free form episode. I'd love my kids to have that sort of thing, because I love having kids around. I like the happiness and the fun and the playing and all that sort of thing. So I think I'd like to have one of those houses where kids can just wander in and hang out.
So you just want kids to come to your house, Robbie?
Yeah, my kids and their friends, not in a weird way. But yeah, I just like seeing kids having fun. They're brilliant, and it's just it's a nice, friendly place. It's just so quiet when there's not. Even if one kid like Otto is 7, he had a sleepover around a friend's house the other day, and even though just one kid less, again, God, it's so quiet without him. What's going on, sort of thing? Yeah, so I like it.
It is weird. It gives you that sort of wholesome feeling when there are kids like around.
Yeah.
Like when I have my little cousins, like when like you know that they're there. The day that they go, it's like, whoa, it's so like empty and weird, and it's just not. It's not right. You know, almost. It's like, yeah, I completely agree with you there. I forgot what I was going to ask you now. Well, I was going to sort of carry on with the sort of when you were younger conversation. Like in terms of what was sort of, like I said, what was sort of little Robbie Knox like growing up? Like, so obviously when you were younger, you were exploring places, as in, you know, you're just wandering around, and then you'd come home for dinner. But sort of slowly growing up, maybe when you're hitting like 12, 13 or whatever.
I wasn't particularly confident, I don't think. I went to an all-boys school, which I don't think made me a legend. I don't think I'd send my kids to a single-sex school. I don't think it necessarily helped when you get to be an adult and you're talking to girls and stuff like that.
You're like, oh my God, you're a girl. It's like me with houses.
So I think, I don't know. I think when I went to uni, I think I became me, because you get sort of like to start again, but be more yourself, or the person you want to be, rather than sort of who you've been trained to be at school. Something you got a bit more freedom. So I think when I went to uni, I think that was when I became sort of me, I guess, sort of thing. But for school, I had nothing particularly eventful. Just fairly did a bit of work. It was never like, top of the class. Was always all right though.
What sort of student were you?
Quite quiet. I did the work. I generally did okay. As I say, never really sort of generally top, but did the stuff and carried on. I did all right. So yeah, all right.
You're a big advocate for like university, aren't you? Because you say that university proper. I mean, you've mentioned it several times, and you really enjoyed it and stuff like that.
I am. For me, I think the difference is that when I went to university, it was free, as in there was no tuition fees at all. And in fact, because we had a lower income in the first year, certainly I remember getting a grant. So we got sort of paid to go to uni, which is kind of how I think it should be. And I think it's a bit harsh now that all the politicians that have benefited from having a free education now are charging people to go to uni. And I think what you've got now, the way, and even when it started tuition fees, they were at low, or student loans, they were at low rate. And now what essentially it's a graduate tax.
Yeah.
Because most people don't ever pay off their thing. It's a graduate tax you pay till you're 55 or whatever age it is.
30 years afterwards,
30 years, okay. So for most people, I guess 50, 51 or so. But it's also a graduate tax that if your parents are wealthy, you can buy yourself out of, because if you can pay your things, like it's very hard to pay off a debt that's somewhat 6% or whatever it is that the student loans thing are something. So in theory, people can be on quite a decent salary and carry on paying that percentage for the whole thing. But if you've got wealthy parents, you can pay the student your fees at the time, then you buy yourself out of a tax, which I don't particularly agree with. But so with that in mind, I think it's no longer I'd recommend everyone to go to uni thing, because it's something that will financially impact you for 30 years. And I'd sort of think, what is it you want to do? There's certain things, if you think you'll benefit from going to uni in the studying aspect, well, if you're just going like I did, I guess, to have an experience of uni, because and to be fair, I got lots of benefits in that I met lots of people that got me work in the future from university, from doing student radio and stuff. But I think if it's just a growing up thing, you could take half the money that you would spend on a course and you could go traveling for a year and have a similar experience. I mean, you can live for a very long time in Thailand or Vietnam or somewhere like that on not that much money. And I'd argue do a similar amount of growing up or life experience as you would at uni, if albeit slightly different. So I don't know. I don't think it's as certain a thing as it once was. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think going to uni is brilliant. I have a great time, but I think it's a more complicated decision than it was for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. Even as a sort of student myself, it's like, especially this year, it's just made me think, it's $9,000 a year. It's a lot of money, and that's just the tuition fee. There's also the maintenance loan as well, which is at the minimum $4,000, and it's up to, like, I think the maximum you can get is $9,000 as well. So you're potentially paying $18,000 a year every single year, which is just crazy amount of money. You don't even end up paying back, but they are apparently considering increasing the amount of time that you've got to pay it back for, and increasing the percentage that you pay back. So right now it's 9% of anything you earn over like 20 something grand. They're thinking about increasing that percentage and making it to like 35 years or so that you got to pay back, which is great. Students getting done over again in a pandemic. Love to see it.
It's not great, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think it's really, really unfair. I do think education should be free. I think the country benefits from having an educated population, and I think I don't like the fact that, as I say, you can buy it yourself. I think what it is essentially is they wanted to bring in a graduate tax, but didn't want the political implications of that, and that it would be badly received adding a tax to people. So they've done it on the sly, I would argue.
I mean, you say they've done it it went from $3,000 all of a sudden to $9,000. That's what I don't understand. How can it do that?
But also more the interest. Like in the early days of student loan, it was a low interest rate. I was paying like I think 2% on the money, because I did take a maintenance loan. I didn't have to pay for tuition fees. I did take a loan there, but it was a low level. Whereas now, it's a dreadful loan deal. I mean, you can get loan for like, I imagine you can probably get a loan for like 2-3% or something if you were taking out an actual loan, but because it's this tuition thing and they're charging outrageous interest rate on it, because it's essentially they don't intend you to ever pay it back.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that it's weird because I mean, I've never done the calculations on would it be better if your parents took out that loan and then basically gave you the money to pay for it, or whether that would be a smart idea, because then you wouldn't get the whole, you only pay 9% of anything you earn over 20 something grand. You'd have to start paying it back from a certain time. I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
so
it's sort of a gamble. If you've got the money, if your parents have got the money to do it, then yeah, I think you certainly in the long run, if you're going into a career that's you're expecting to earn decent money, and I mean you can never tell, can you, sort of thing. But if you were doing it and then yeah, it is. But I mean the other option is apprenticeships, isn't there? There are apprenticeships that will pay for your university now that people can do, which is the sort of, you get the university life, you're also working, earning a bit of money at the time, and you're not saddled with that debt as well. So I think that's another option for youngsters.
I've always said, I even whilst I'm at uni and before I came, I said if I ever found an apprenticeship that I really wanted to do, I'll pick that over uni any day of the week, just because you're earning money and you get a qualification at the end of it, and it's potentially a very good skill to have as well, and it's work experience. It's like the best of everything you can get.
Also, it's a lot to expect people to know what they want to do at 18 as well, and to make these. You're making decisions when you're 18, in some cases before you're 18, if you're planning this, you're making a decision about that will put you in debt essentially for 30 years or 30 years after you finish or something like that. So 33 years probably, sort of thing. In some cases when you're 17, it's quite a lot
And
to expect of people. And I had no idea what I wanted to do when I started uni. No idea.
what did you actually study at uni?
Economics, because
Oh, okay.
I was quite good at school. I was quite interested in it, but at no point was I thinking I want to work in a bank or I want to be an economist.
Yeah.
I was thinking I want to go to uni and I'm all right at this. It's a proper subject, so it will have some respect if I do decide to go into a sort of serious field. So I'll just do that. But
Yeah, I feel like I'm quite similar. Like I'm doing history and international relations, so I guess it's not as proper as sort of something like economics.
I
But
think still, yeah, it's not as sort of traditional, I guess, but it's
yeah,
still a
yeah,
sort of
yeah. I, I mean, I put down my degree all the time just because I just think it's the sort of degree that most people that actually get this degree, or a degree that's like this, end up just going into finance, which I could do anyway. So in a similar way, like to you, I'm sort of just doing it because I enjoy it, I'm good at it, but I'm hoping in the next 3 years I can find something I go, oh, I want to do it. I mean, that so again through this podcast, it has sort of enabled me to because of COVID. So I started this podcasting around December time, where we had another lockdown. It was getting very depressing mentally. I was completely drained from everything, and obviously with an awful COVID first year at uni, it was just everything was just piling on top. And then I just started to think, I don't know what I want to do with my life, and I was stressing out essentially. So I went, I'm just going to start a podcast. And then I realized that I would love to sort of do something like this, not necessarily podcasting full time, but something that gives me the ability to be able to talk to people or different people every single day, be able to like present or something like that, and being able to speak. I guess I don't want to be sitting in an office 9 to 5 every single day. I don't sort of like that. And even though it offers a lot of job security, I would rather have less security and just a chance to be a bit more flexible and a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and also people, I think when you're younger, it sort of feels like you've got to make a big decision for what you're going to do forever. Well, you don't. I mean, when I started my career, almost every way that I make money now didn't exist. I mean, there wasn't. I run a production company that makes video online for brands. There wasn't any online video. That wasn't a thing. YouTube wasn't a thing. Podcasts weren't a thing. And all the things where I make money, Twitch streaming certainly wasn't a thing. Just didn't exist. So things will change in the future. And now, as I've started a brewery, and I'd never brewed a beer until a year ago yesterday was the first time I ever brewed a beer. So you can change what you do at any point, and you don't have to do one thing forever like people did where they'd get a job and work from school to retirement and get a little carriage clock at the end of it. You can do whatever you like, and you can change at any point. I mean, obviously there's things, if you want to be a surgeon, you have to go and do medical school for a bit. But for most jobs, you can just sort of go, I'm going to do that now, or do something different, or start up a business, or change career, or retrain it. You don't have to do. It's not a decision for life. I think it feels like it is when you're younger.
Again, I think that's sort of one of the good things about watching you. I mean, I don't know what your demographic is like in terms of people that watch you, but in terms of for young people, I think you're really good to watch because obviously there's so many things that you've done, and you were at one point in a position that a lot of young people are in right now, where they don't know what they want to do with their life. They're sort of just going to university because it's sort of the normal thing to do, and if you gave the option to like 90% of young people and be like, you'd be able to do all these things that you've done or half the things that you've done, they go, oh yeah, I'll take that. And so I know you've got to go to the dentist soon, so I'll wrap it up as soon as possible. I sort of want to ask you, what sort of advice would you give to young people right now? Like, so say people that are like sort of 20 years old right now, what advice would you give to live, I would say you've had a pretty exciting life. A pretty exciting life. What advice would you give to them to have somewhat exciting life?
Just do stuff, and if you're ever stuck in a rut or bored or feel like you need a bit more excitement, just do stuff. And that can be literally anything, and it will never be, it's very rarely when you do something, it's very rarely what you think will happen will be the thing that happens. But it's like I I remember once, anything that you do can change your life, but being sat at home on the sofa probably won't. I mean, whereas I remember when I was working at Soccer AM, I used to do a lot of stuff with bands and stuff like that. And I'd been out with my housemate Sally. We'd been out drinking in Primrose Hill thing. And on the way home, there's a hotel called the K West Hotel in Shepherd's Bush, which was on my way home, and loads of bands would always stay there and drink there. So if bands were in London, they'd quite often be there. So anyway, so I went there. We said, should we go for one more drink on the way home? We went, yeah, let's go and do it. We'll see if there's anyone we know down there. So we went down there. I bumped into Serge from Kasabian, who I knew from Soccer AM. He was there, and met his friend Mikey, who I got to know him. And through Mikey, eventually Sally met his friend Rob, who she's now married. He went out to New York and she went with him, and she ended up winning an Emmy. Well, in New York, she makes documentaries. She worked on Anti Bourdain, and she won an Emmy, and now they've got twins together. They're back in the UK and all this. So if we hadn't gone for that drink, she wouldn't have got these kids. She wouldn't be married to this guy. She wouldn't have lived in New York. She wouldn't have an Emmy on her mantelpiece.
Jeez.
Because we went. I'm not saying go to the pub all the time, but I'm saying things that you do are down to lead to things. I met my wife because my friend Arthur, who I grew up with, his parents had a big garden. One day I was in the pub with someone else and saying, God, it'd be great to have a music festival, wouldn't it? So I texted Arthur saying, can we have a music festival in your garden? And then we organised a little music festival with our friends and friends' bands and stuff like that, just in a garden. And I met my wife at that one year, sort of thing. So if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met her. I mean, I probably would have met someone else or something like that. But just by putting yourself out and doing anything, like joining a club, meeting someone, going traveling, doing anything at all is good. So trying to and enjoying whatever stage of life you're at, and not worrying too much about the next bit, and just doing what you want to do, and putting yourself out there, I think is the key.
And that is it for this week's episode of the Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. I definitely did. It was absolutely mental to speak with Robbie and just actually be able to speak to him, which is crazy. And, you know, Robbie's not the only one that I've just sort of been wowed at the fact that they actually, you know, some people actually give me the time of the day to come on the podcast. It's a nice feeling, I guess. And especially when people say that they enjoyed it, it's just great, and it just makes my ego even bigger than it already is. But anyway, I'm again digressing too much. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you learned a bit about Robbie that you might not have known. He has done a few podcasts, so I wanted to change it up a bit, and maybe we can do a part 2 or something in the future, because there's so many more questions that I've got to ask. But yeah, to go to the dentist, and obviously you should always go to the dentist, kids. I mean, there's 2 things that you should take away from this podcast. Number 1, always get your dental checkups. Yeah. Robbie's still doing them. I think the last time I went to the dentist was about 2 years ago, so I should probably get checked. And number 2, don't drive near hurricanes, even if you are 100 miles away from the edge. I still can't believe he did that. Crazy guy, but I mean, it is what it is. Anyway, if you did enjoy the episode, then please do leave a like. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Robbie, if you've never sort of seen him before, or if you have seen him before, if there's any sort of new thing that you've heard about. I've never heard the hurricane story before, or the Wembley one, actually. That one, I found that quite fascinating. So let me know what new things you've heard of, and just if you're new, give me some feedback. Be as harsh and as constructive as possible, or just be a knobhead if you want. Whatever makes you happy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Until next time.